Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our regular meeting, and also, of course, to our residents listening online. I will now call the meeting to order. The agenda is there before you. Could I have a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Sadie King, seconded
Seconded by Laura Crawley. Sorry.
by Councillor Crowley. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Those against? Motion is carried. Okay, the adoption, let me see, the minutes of the meeting from February 1st. Are there any errors or omissions?
Not that I could see, Mr. Mayor. I read it and looked accurate to my recollection of my notes.
Okay, so if there's no further discussion, the table will adopt them as presented. Business arising from the minutes. Okay, if there's no business arising, we will now move on to the mayor's update. A few points here for public knowledge. First of all, on February 10th, the council had a virtual meeting with the RCMP to receive an update on various activities happening within the town. We discussed the ATV use within our community, and I'm pleased to report that the complaints of illegal use has decreased from by 20% from last year. And I will also add that complaints to the town have also decreased exponentially as well. That's certainly encouraging news, and we certainly commend users for complying with the ATV rules and regulations. We understand and recognize that off-road vehicles are becoming a very popular activity for all ages and a great way to get out and enjoy the outdoors. As long as they operate these vehicles throughout the community in a safe and responsible manner, we have absolutely no issue with that. The RCMP has also said that if you have to travel along a roadway within a kilometre to get back to your home, to access the rail bed, or, for example, to get gas at the gas station, you may do so as long as you stay to the side of the road, reduce your speed, the vehicle is registered, you're not under the influence, and you're all wearing the protective gear, then that is now permissible under the new off-road regulations. That is something that ATV users need to know, and there's no need to feel that you have to dash from point A to point B at high speeds in fear of being apprehended. So just as an example, if you need to use, say, Woodford Station to get down to the Irving at the bottom of the road from the rail bed, you may do so freely, recognizing the provisions I just outlined. So our safety message is basically slow down, stay to the side of the road, be vigilant of children at play and pedestrians out for a walk. In other words, be cognizant of your surroundings. And I'm sure the residents of that area in particular will appreciate that. And again, I'm just using this area as an example, as it also applies to other areas as well, such as on Northside Road, Country Path, Marina Shores, etc. Now, having said that, we certainly commend and applaud everyone who has made a concerted effort of improving their operating habits using these vehicles. So be safe and enjoy. On another note, now on the topic of regular road traffic, unfortunately, the same scenario does not apply. The RCMP are still dealing with complaints of excessive speeding throughout the town, such as on Duff Strait, Salmon Line, Liam Hickey Drive, and so on. I remind motorists that when entering the town, they are expected to respect the speed limits within our municipal jurisdiction. For those who respect the rules of the road, we applaud you. For those who don't, just ask yourself the question, why am I racing down Duff Strait doing 80 or 90 kilometers an hour, passing other vehicles just to get to my destination only a few minutes away? Why am I racing down Liam Hickey Drive doing 100 just to get to Tim Hortons, only 2 to 3 minutes away. There's no nicer or diplomatic way of saying this, so I'll be direct and to the point. For heaven's sake, please slow down. What is your rush? Why jeopardize your own safety or the safety of others, your family and friends? I don't want to get too dramatic, but I worked in emergency services for 28 years, and believe me, I've seen my share of tragedy, carnage, and heartaches from vehicle accidents. It simply has to stop. I remember noticing a sign while I was in Florida a few years ago, which said, "Slow down, you're needed at home." I think that says it all and something to think about. So we will continue to have periodic sessions with the RCMP, and we also hope to include the public as well. So is there any comments on that from that meeting we had with the RCMP before I move on? Anybody from the Public Safety Committee?
If I could just make a couple of comments there, Mr. Mayor, Councillor
Sure.
Buckle. Yeah, we had a great meeting, as you indicated there, with the RCMP. The ATVs was one thing talked about, but we talked about several things. And I mean, the RCMP were telling us to let the residents know if they see something that they figure is serious or an issue, to report it, because they log all their complaints and follow them and use their resources that way throughout their district. So if there's something there, if there's an issue within the town and the resident sees it, you're better off to call and follow your complaint so that the RCMP can attend to it. But also it helps them disperse their resources within the district for complaints and issues in various areas of the towns throughout the district. So anyone that is out there and do see something that he thinks it should be reported to the police, if they can report it, then the police can act up on it and follow up, and also use the resources to deal with the issue, especially in our town in Holyrood. But we had a great meeting, as you said, Mr. Mayor, and the report that the town of Holyrood has, not only now but in previous years, and I've been on a few councils that have dealt with the RCMP. We got a great working relationship, and the RCMP are always there. And as you said, we're going to try to have some of these sessions that we can do live stream, and people can from the town and the communities can weigh in, and then we can do some education parts throughout the next little while. That's one of the topics that we talked about. But it was a great meeting overall, and I think it was the way that we want to do business with the RCMP, and I think the commitment is there on both sides, from the town and the RCMP. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. And as Councillor Bruce King would say, if you see something, say something. Any other questions or comments on that?
Just a quick comment, Mr. Mayor. It's Councillor Windsor speaking. Very well said in your introductory remarks, and followed up by Councillor Buckle. Kudos to you, gentlemen, and Councillor Bruce King as well, for a keen interest in safety. I wasn't in attendance at that meeting. I missed it due to another commitment. But what I will say is that, from a tourism perspective as well, we want Holyrood to be a welcoming place for ATV users. It's a big part of our community now and into the future. And I have to say, personally speaking, any encounters I've had with ATV users, as a pedestrian, hiker, very respectful. 99.9% of ATV users are respectful. They slow down, they wave to you, and that's great. And as Councillor Buckle said, there's an education piece here too, right? So, I mean, if we're reporting the small number of bad interactions and educating people to slow it down, because there are buffer areas where they're permitted to access and slow down, will reduce the risk of accidents in future. So, fully support everything you said. Well done, guys.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Windsor. Any other comments, questions? Okay, if not, I will move on. A couple of more here. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to sign a proclamation on behalf of the town in recognition of National Heritage Week. Heritage is a vital piece of our community, and it identifies who we are and how we evolved from years gone by. To take a quote from my address to the group yesterday, we completely comprehend the concept that we need to understand and appreciate our past to help develop our path into the future, unquote. So I want to take this opportunity on behalf of council to once again extend our thanks and appreciation to the Heritage Group for their dedication and wonderful work that they are doing in protecting and preserving our heritage within our community. Okay, another item here. On behalf of council, I want to take this opportunity to congratulate Brad Guzzu and his curling team for bringing home the bronze medal at the Olympics in Beijing. They certainly gave a fine showing, and we're all proud of this wonderful accomplishment. And as we learned the other day, our very own Liam Hickey has been named to the 2022 Beijing Paralympic Games to begin on March 4th. This will be Hickey's third appearance at those games, and we certainly wish him well and his teammates all the very best. So that is the mayor's update. Any other questions or comments on that? Okay, if not, we will move on to correspondence. I have a couple of pieces here. The first one is from Bicycle Newfoundland and Labrador. So it's quite a lengthy letter, which I'm not going to read out now in its entirety. So I think the proper process here is that we will refer this to the Recreation and Community Events Committee to review and report back from council. But just a little excerpt here from that letter. It says, on behalf of Bicycle Newfoundland and Labrador, I am contacting you to request that the Town of Holyrood consider upgrading the section of the trailway from Seal Cove Pond, Conception Bay South, Seal Cove Pond, Conception Bay South, to the western end of the Town of Holyrood into a finished smooth surface, converting it into a non-motorized multi-use trail. So that's pretty well the crux of that piece of correspondence. And like I say, it will be referred to the Recreation and Community Events Committee so they can actually review this and I'm sure have a chat with those folks and report back to council at a later date. Any questions, comments on that? Okay, if not, another piece here from HMPC, that's the Holyrood Marina Park Corporation. And again, that's a fairly extensive letter. So I'm basically acknowledging receipt of this letter this evening. And as this is an internal matter between HMPC and the town, with discussions still ongoing, I think appropriately we will refer it back to our two council representatives on the HMPC board to get further information. Further information will be forthcoming once it's reviewed. So are we all okay with that? Any questions, comments?
No, Councillor King, I'm fine with that. I think that's a great idea.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Councillor Windsor, I'll echo my colleague's sentiment. I think, it's best to, as you say, Mr. Mayor, we'll work through those details and share with the council of the whole and other committees as necessary. What I will say is to take the opportunity just to acknowledge, we don't really talk about the marina very much in the public meeting, but, my brief time with them have been impressed by their contribution, their professionalism and their high degree of competence, and closing out the year to see their fully transparent financials and high degree of accountability. I was impressed, and I'd like to say for all of council and residents is that the marina really is a part of our town. I think that's attractive, and it's a jewel in the crown, really. When we think about our slogan, come ashore to Holyrood. I mean, literally, I don't know if people are aware of this or not, but there are a number of transient berths there, and there are tourists that visit our town via boat, just like the old days, right? So, I mean, I'd like to continue to work with the marina to improve and enhance where possible, to make it an even better part of our town. We want to market ourselves as an ocean gateway. And I think the marina plays into that. I'm not a boat owner. That's a retirement objective, Mr. Mayor. But I can see the benefit, in many ways to our town. So we'll continue to work with them. And as Councillor Bruce King said, we'll take those details aside and address them in the appropriate manner. Thank you.
Okay, well said. Thank you very much, sir. I think that you were making a little dig there at me, were you? Being a newbie, a retiree.
I was getting you back a little bit. You were teasing me today for going back into work when I had to adjourn our call, so I had to get you back. Yeah,
I figured. Okay, any other questions or comments on that? All right. If not, we will now move on to planning and development update.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Did we?
Yes.
This is Councillor Crawley. Did we obtain correspondence? Is it to be tabled from a grade 6 student at Holy Cross? Did we receive that?
Councillor Crawley, I haven't received anything, not in my possession.
Okay. All right. I'll have to check into it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Planning and development. So who's up? Deputy Mayor Woodford or Councillor Windsor? Who's going to lead that report?
It's going to be me, Deputy Mayor Woodford.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Or
Good evening, everybody. The Planning and Development Committee met on February 16th. Councillor Windsor, Gary Corbett, Krista Turnbull and myself were in attendance. There were about 15 agenda items that were discussed and actioned during that meeting. And when I say that, I'm talking about, we contacted, the action items included contacting applicants, giving them an update or on the status of their application or requesting more information. Some applications were deferred to other departments for review that would be involved, such as infrastructure and public works or business development and marketing. And we do have some that we're going to that were tabled for tonight. So before we go to those motions, I just wanted to give an update on the town plan as well, because committee members met last night for an information session with our consultant to identify the process that we're going to take in reviewing the draft document and identify the key areas that we need to start. So it's going to be a piece by piece review that we felt that was the best way, the best approach to take in reviewing the town plan. And I mean, town plan is going to take a while for us to get all that information out and back to council and public consultation. And, we're looking at a couple of years for sure. We have until 2014 because our current town plan, 2024 in order to get that document complete. So we should be on time to have that completed by then. So for our motions this evening, we do have several, so I'm going to begin those. We do have one permit. Be it resolved to table and approve the attached permit listing. It's only one permit. It was issued on February 9th, 2022, and the number is 01-0006-22. It's for a greenhouse, and it's the civic address is 2 Vitches Hill. So moved.
okay, moved by Deputy Mayor Woodford, seconded by
Councillor Buckle.
Councillor Buckle. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those against? Motion is carried.
Okay, the next motion for tonight is residential development at 23 Harbour View Drive. The zoning is RMD. Be it resolved that the Town of Holyrood approve the above application in principle, subject to the Town of Holyrood's development regulations. So moved.
Okay, moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by
Councillor King.
Seconded by Councillor Sadie King. Further discussion? And of course, this is a straightforward application.
It is, yeah.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those against? Motion is carried. Deputy Mayor, before you move on, at this point, I just want to remind our residents who's listening tonight that we don't name names under the Municipalities Act, which is a new regulation brought in a few years ago. We're no longer permitted to use any names, and that was the way it was done years ago. People's names were actually used, but under the Act now, we're only required to use addresses. So I think that's important and that's understood. Okay?
Yeah, the civic address. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, carry on.
Okay, the next motion that we have is for a residential development as well. It's at 11 Saul Drive. The zoning is RMD. Be it resolved that the Town of Holyrood approve the above application in principle, subject to the Town of Holyrood development regulations. So moved.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Woodford, seconded by
Crawley?
Seconded by Councillor Crawley. Further discussion? And again, that's a straightforward.
It's a straightforward development of residential build. Yes.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those against? Motion is carried.
The next we have is a residential application for 169 Conception Bay Highway. The zoning is residential medium density. Be it resolved that the Town of Holyrood exercise its discretion under Regulation 10 and refuse the above application. After due consideration of the application and background information provided, the Planning and Development Committee recommend that Council exercise their discretion under Regulation 10 and refuse the application. So moved.
Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by
Councillor Windsor.
Seconded by Councillor Windsor. Further discussion?
Yeah, I'll lead things off there with some supplementary remarks, Deputy Mayor and Mr. Mayor, for the benefit of council and residents and interested stakeholders. So we did take this very seriously. This file was reviewed at, I believe, 2 planning committee meetings and 1, if not 2, public works and infrastructure planning meetings. A lot of discussion on the file. There's a lot of questions and concerns and risks that we discussed. Some questions we found answers to, others we did not. What I'll boil it down to is, this is the area, by the way, if people are not aware, their homes that were approved for development in marshland and led to some settlement and structural issues with the original builds, 2 or 3, which have since burned. There is about approximately 10-15 feet of bog there from test holes. The proposal, to rebuild would either be 300 loads of fill or an completely alternative, somewhat unconventional design, for at least for this jurisdiction, probably more common in other jurisdictions, a steel piling system to be able to penetrate the material and get to solid rock. A lot of concerns around drainage in that area. I'll note that the previous builds did have approved drainage plans. They didn't work, clearly. And, in light of, recent extreme weather events as well, we're taking into consideration, the climate change factors, where this is going in the future. We are expected to have more and more extreme events. That combined with the geology of the area, which is poor, an unconventional design, too many questions and risks here for the longevity of the home. Is this a suitable proposal for a 50-year lifespan for this building, right? Too many unknowns, too many risks for me personally to support it, but it's entirely, every councillor can certainly vote along the lines of their own discretion and their own view. But that's just some comments there. And if anybody wanted to add on to that or ask questions, by all means.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments? I think you summed it up very well there, Councillor Windsor. And yes, we did take this application very serious. There was a lot of discussion on that. And again, with the history behind that, I don't think I would not be comfortable supporting this. I think that if this motion passes to reject the application, I think this is a responsible approach by the town, and I think it would be in the best interest of the applicant overall, because that whole area in question, as we know, it's not a good fit for that kind of development. That's the way I feel. Okay, any other questions, comments? So the motion is to reject. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
Those against? Motion is carried. And that is to reject the application.
And the final application is a business development application, actually, for Bryan's Road across the Trailway. The zoning is residential medium density, and the proposal is for an event venue, chalets, and recreational vehicle rentals. Be it resolved that the Town of Holyrood exercise its discretion under Regulation 10 and refuse the above application. After due consideration of the application and background information provided, the Planning and Development Committee recommend that Council exercise their discretion under Regulation 10 and refuse the application. So moved.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Woodford, seconded by
Councillor Windsor.
Councillor Windsor. Further discussion?
Yeah, I'll just give a little bit of an update with regards to that, because we've been dealing with that in business development and marketing, and then it got filtered over to, of course, planning and development. It's a great concept. The event venue, we definitely would, that would be a great fit for Holyrood. The problem is, of course, is access to the piece of property that this proposed development site is for. Of course, Bryan's Road is a residential road. It's it's almost a one-way road. To look at Bryan's Road, some work needs to be done on Bryan's Road, and the other access to the property for this proposed development would be through Marina Shores across the Trailway as well. And of course, Marina Shores is a residential neighborhood. Kids are playing out around their houses. There's playgrounds there. There's daycares there. To have that traffic volume go through a residential neighborhood would be a safety risk. And as Councillor Windsor mentioned with regards to the other application, this has been discussed several times in Business Development and Marketing Committee, and several times as well in the Planning and Development. And we're open and willing to work with the developer to see if there would be another area that we could he could find some property to put this business development on, because it's a great concept. It's just not conducive for that area.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any further comments?
Very well said, Deputy Mayor. As you say, it's a great idea. And I think that, the town and the residents and users and visitors, would really like to see something like that. But as you well described, there's a lot of questions and risks around access and traffic and things of that nature. So to that applicant and all developers, Holyrood's open for business. We're willing to talk to you and collaborate with you. And we have a marketing business development committee for that. It might not be the best fit right now in that particular location, but maybe there's a different location.
Absolutely. Mm.
Okay, yes, and I certainly concur with both of your comments. And it's a great concept, and I think it will be a welcomed addition to the community. The only problem is it's just not in the right location. And as the deputy mayor just articulated, all that area down there is exclusively residential, and that area is actually zoned as residential medium density. And the only way to accommodate that would be have traffic traverse back and forth up and down Bryan's Road, which is correct. It's basically a narrow road that do require some work, and that certainly would not work. And I definitely have a major problem with permitting traffic to navigate back and forth through Marina Shores. Those residents, invested a lot of money putting those beautiful homes in that subdivision, which is exclusively residential, and there is a daycare there. And I don't think that they would appreciate traffic, in large volumes. If you're catering to a wedding, for example, with 200 or 300 people, with vehicles navigating to and from, late hours in the night up through a subdivision. So again, great concept, love the concept, but it's just not in the right area. And we will do, as the deputy mayor just referred, we will do what we can within the business and marketing development to hopefully continue working with the proponents in trying to secure another location that will be more conducive for that use. So that's my comment. Any other questions, comments? Okay, if not, the motion has been moved and seconded. All those in favor of rejecting the application?
Aye.
Aye.
Those against? Motion is carried to reject the application.
And that's it for me, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you so
Thank
much, Deputy Mayor. And now we will move on to recreation and community events. So who's going to lead that one tonight? Councillor Buckle or Councillor Sadie King?
Councillor Buckle is going to there, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, it's all yours.
Good evening, everyone. The Recreation and Community Events Committee met on Tuesday, February 15th. In attendance was Mayor Gooby, myself, Councillor Sadie King, CAO Gary Corbett, and Director of Recreation and Community Events Steve Martin. There was many topics talked about. I'll just touch on a few. The first one was the recreation programming. The committee is very happy to see the returns of the following programs: Zumba Gold, Adult Zumba, Chair Yoga, Active for Life, Kung Fu, Conception Bay Family Resource Program, and Adult Yoga. So that's some of the programming that has started back up at Star City. So we're very happy to be able to offer that to our residents and for people to get out and to enjoy. The next thing I'll touch base on is the Crystal Carnival. The flyer will be out in the mail next week, early next week. There's a great list of events. So I'll just touch on a couple of things there. We're looking at several events that will be included in the Crystal Carnival this year: self-guided activities, seniors carnival dance, chili cook-off and outdoor play day, virtual chili dash, community bonfire, comedy night, Paddy's Day dance, princess and superheroes breakfast, various in-school activities, and there's going to be a school ski trip, and also wellness activities and more. So that flyer will be in the mail. It's a great list of events, and we're hoping, with the times and the relaxing of the levels, and we're hoping that people will get out and enjoy it and participate. I think everyone's looking forward to it with the pandemic and being home in their houses, not getting out and enjoying. We're really looking forward to a great list of events and for people to take advantage of this. So we hope that everything works out for us and the weather cooperates. Another one I'll just touch on is we applied for the Canada Summer Jobs, and the Director of Business Development and Marketing, Marjorie Gibbons, has submitted this year's applications for Canada Summer Jobs. And with that being said, the job advertisements for the summer employees is currently on the website, social media channels, and it will be in next week's Shoreline. Deadline is Friday, March 18th. So anyone that's looking for summer employment, please forward your resumes along before the deadline of Friday, March 18th. Also, the town received a $1,000 grant from the Eastern Wellness Coalition towards the purchase of Active for Life equipment. This $1,000 will help grow our seniors-based program, ensuring our instructors have the necessary resources to run the successful program. So we're very, very thankful, and we would like to say a big thank you to the Business Development Marketing for their efforts in getting this grant for us. And that is it for me. I will pass it over to Councillor Sadie King, my co-chair on this committee, and she will take off. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
So, for me, it's the community garden. Before you know it, we'll be planting. So, as I said at our last meeting, we're in the process of revising our committee. So, to date, we've got 2 members from our previous committee returning, and we'd like to get a couple of new members, and especially a new chairperson. So, if there's any interest out there, could you contact Steve at the town hall or contact me? With regards to the new compost bins, they're en route and hopefully will be here by the end of March. And if you wish to get one of these, you need to put your name in at the town and you'll be notified when they arrive. And again, once again, I'm very pleased to say we're going to have a great Crystal Carnival again this year. And it's good to get people back out of their homes to let them get together. And that's it for me.
Okay, thank you, Councillor King. Any further discussion, questions, comments? Okay, if not, we will move on to infrastructure and public works. So who's leading that, Councillor Windsor or Councillor Sadie King?
I think we'll both have some things to say, but I think, Councillor Sadie King wanted to give an update on a couple of items, and there are motions as well that Councillor King will deliver. So Sadie, if you want to, you go ahead and complete that, and I'll have some commentary as well to follow if you like.
I didn't get too much time, Steve, to delve into this today, but my main concern is Kennedy's Lane. We've had so much problems with Kennedy's Lane this year, and last time we had the rain, we didn't seem to have as much flooding as before. So there's still some work to be done. And back a few years ago, we had an estimate done to take care of the drainage up there, and it was in the area of $200,000. So right now we're not at the point in the town where we can put the money into this. So what we've decided for the time being is that this part of Kennedy's Lane will be closed off to the public for cars and trucks and things of that nature. ATVs will still be able to get through, but there's barriers erected at each end. So we'd ask people to respect those barriers, and we'll have to make do for the time being until that can be opened again safely. That's the big thing there. The other thing I'm just going to mention is the water testing. And in order to have another water supply for the town of Holyrood, we have to do some testing on the Northam River. So we've got a motion this evening on the table to get that water tested. And the first one reads, be it resolved that the town of Holyrood award the water testing of Northam River to Avalon Laboratories for a cost of $6,311.24 plus HST, the lowest of 3 bids which were submitted by companies with the expertise to complete the scope of work. So moved.
Okay, moved by Councillor Sadie King, seconded by?
Steve, Councillor Windsor seconding, yes.
Seconded by Councillor Windsor. Further discussion? Okay, if not, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
Okay, those against? Motion is carried.
Our second motion then is also applies to this. It's for the gas tax. Be it resolved, the Town of Holyrood submit an application to Gas Tax Authority in the amount of $6,311.24 to complete the testing at Northam River. So moved.
Moved by Councillor King, seconded by
Councillor Windsor.
Crawley.
Councillor Crawley. Further discussion? So this is federal government money, so it's not coming directly out of our operating budget. So that's good that that amount will be covered off. Any further questions? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those against? Motion is carried.
And now I'm going to turn it over to Councillor Windsor, and he will give an update on storm damage.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Thank you, Sadie. Councillor King, at the last public meeting, I sort of went on a little bit longer than usual. We had quite a number of files, and that was after our first storm, right? And, our public works staff had worked so hard, and our director, and literally dozens of work orders raised and closed. And since our last public meeting, we had yet another storm. Recognize the importance of this very, very busy file, and the Public Works Committee has actually met on a weekly basis since. I would not be able to occupy this meeting with an update on every single matter that the committee is working through. Just not enough time. But what I will say is that, these water issues are becoming more prevalent. You heard me earlier when we were talking, I mentioned the words climate change. That is a real thing. These extreme weather events, are forecasted to happen more often and be more severe, right? So it's very much top of mind for committee. And what I want to assure the council and the residents is that we are taking a proactive approach to this. We hear you. There's nothing worse than having water in your basement. I've experienced it myself in homes I've lived in. We had down to Hazeldale, we've replaced one culvert with two, right? And that's the sort of thing that we're going to be doing as they arise. Upsizing culverts from 24 to 30 inches, for example. Down around the roundabout, I understand there's issues at some of the homes there in the last storm event. We are going to look at the sizing of the chambers and the lift stations, right? Drainage plans down on Saul Drive. We're aware of a drainage issue there. So there's a few things going on that are top of mind for me and for committee and for council. They tie into planning and development as well. We require and will require, as we go through our town plan update, a more robust drainage plan for applications to be approved by the developer. And our ongoing efforts around the engineering consultants and their feedback to allow the stormwater network to be able to deal with these extreme events, because these events are putting an extreme stress on the network. It is an old network. We need to have ongoing maintenance, but we need to have capital improvements as well. It's very expensive to do all that. We'll always look for funding opportunities as they arise, and it's not going to happen overnight. But as we address different areas, we will seek to improve them and upsize them, right? The other thing I'll touch on is, it relates to drainage, is the hillsides, right? So, common Newfoundland, we have hillsides everywhere. But as we develop these natural hillsides and we don't put back the vegetation, we're changing the drainage path of the water, right? And we're making things harder on ourselves for the residents who are downstream, right? So we've got hillsides that are unstable from a safety perspective. They're creating drainage problems. So these are other subjects that are going to be very important going forward in our town plan for robust applications to get approved, right? The drainage plan, the unsightliness of it too, right? Is the beautification of our town, right? Nobody wants a town of gravel pits and unfinished work, right? So there's a lot of stuff going on right now in public works and infrastructure, Mr. Mayor, and it ties in very well to the Planning and Development Committee and also the larger 10-year plan renewal that we're doing, right? So I just wanted to give sort of a general update from my perspective this week, rather than an itemized, work order type of update. Is there any questions? By all means, fire away.
Sorry. Councillor Crowley here. Not a question, but I just want to give out a commend, Councillor Windsor. I've had a couple of residents approach me and say how happy they were that you've had such a hands-on approach to them with regards to all these drainage problems and storm problems. So they were really excited that, someone came to them and listened to them and things like that. So I just want to commend you for your work and your ongoing commitment to this.
Oh, thanks for that. That's what I signed up for, right? I mean, I wish I never had to put my rubber boots on and get down in ditches with people and go into their basements and everything like that. But that's what we signed up for, try to help, right? I wish I had more answers faster, but, sometimes the realities, are up against us, but we're trying.
Yeah, if I could chime in just for a second, and I certainly agree, and you've explained that very well, Councillor Windsor. The reality is today that climate change is here. A few years ago, it was, when is climate change going to happen? But I think that we all understand and accept that that's the reality. Climate change is here, and when we're dealing with these kind of issues, because we know that these storms that are happening, whether it's, not snowstorms this winter, not yet anyway, but in particular with the rainstorms, we are noticing that they're happening more frequently. And when they do happen, they're more severe. So as you alluded to earlier, which I fully agree, and I'm sure Council agrees, we have to look at this and take a proactive approach and not try to be reactive. So upgrading our culverts, for example, from a 24-inch to a 30-inch, improve our ditching, and areas in the town that we find that could be problematic under severe weather conditions, we need to get a head start and try to, mitigate this and try to improve those areas. So when we do receive those major storms, that our infrastructure can handle it. And I got to say, overall, and the last couple of storms, and one in particular, myself and Councillor Windsor did a drive around and looked at different areas. But overall, I got to say that the town's infrastructure is holding up very well. There are areas that I've noticed that have the smaller culverts, 24-inch, and you can see that the water is actually going over those culverts. And when they do, they take a different course, a different path, and that creates more problems. So, by upgrading those culverts where the water can actually flow freely through it, it can help reduce any further damage. So these are the things that we have to recognize in the face of climate change. And going back to many months ago when I appointed all of the committees, I mentioned at some point that we may need to consider the establishment of an environmental and climate change committee. And I'm hoping that will come. And I'd like to see that as an external committee whereby we can engage the public and our residents to be part of this committee along with councillors, and have a good discussion on finding ways and means in working collaboratively with the Public Works Committee on how we can improve our infrastructure. So, any other comments?
Councillor Buckle, if I could make a couple of comments.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I think, I think we're on the right track. There were some good points made there by Councillor Windsor and on the flooding issues and the drainage and the rainfalls that we had over the last little while. And, You know what I mean? There is areas that need bigger culverts, and there's some areas where the culverts are good and we got to look at them. Sometimes, you know what I mean, over time they get blocked up with dirt. So, you know what I mean, just cleaning them out will help in some areas. You know what I mean? When we had the washout around north side there where we put those retaining wall blocks in a while back, you know what I mean, there was a lot of drainage issues there. But when that whole, from Rich's Crescent, Rich's Hill there down to the north side, but you know what I mean, when that was engineered and that whole project was done, there was many manholes and catch basins and bigger pipe going out to the ocean, and you know what I mean, fix that whole problem in that area from the washout, because what happened, the side of the road washed out and gave way after a time. But you know what I mean, when the project was done, it was done right. You know what I mean, and we haven't had an issue in that area since. And getting back to another area that we had and was on the go for a long, long while, and it's the Route 60 in Taplin's Hill, in front of the lady's house there, just back from Councillor King's there, where the culvert going across the road was blocked. And the Highways Department of Transportation and Infrastructure done some great work in that area. And this time we had the rainfall and there was no issue there. The water was flowing. They put in a couple new culverts, opened up the ditch there. But you know what I mean? Just with that bit of work done, you could see how it worked out well in that area. And I think that's the way that the town has to look, and our infrastructure public works are on the right track, and our director. And I think we can do some good work and be proactive, and then we can, you know what I mean, we're not going to solve all the issues. There's going to be other issues that will come up in different areas. The water that we're having now, as is indicated with climate change, you know what I mean, I've never seen it before, you know what I mean, up by the swimming park, just come down over the top of the hill there the last couple of times that we had rain, and even up on Liam Hickey Drive on the opposite side of the road, just the amount of water that was coming down there on the pole line is, you know what I mean, it's amazing. And I've never seen it before, but you know what I mean, we can see that the times are changing and we got to be proactive, and I think we're on the right track as a council, and I think we will resolve most of the issues, and we'll always have them, but I think we're going in the right direction. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Buckle. That was certainly well said, and I concur. The Public Works Committee are doing a fabulous, fantastic job in staying on top of this. It's quite a extremely busy committee, but yeah, they're making very good progress. So kudos to Councillor Windsor and Councillor Sadie King and our Director of Public Works, Robert Stacey, and of course all the other staff. Okay, with that said, is that it now for? Is that it for Public Works?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that's enough for tonight anyway, and there's other business for the council to attend to, so nothing further from me. Thank you, sir. Okay,
thank you. And now we'll move on to Business Development and Marketing, Deputy Mayor Woodford.
Yeah, we didn't send out any minutes for a meeting or anything to report from minutes tonight, because we haven't had a meeting yet. Our meeting is scheduled for March the 9th. We did, however, have a meeting with the development team for that submitted a proposal for Oceana, which is the property that we're hoping to develop at the town centre there. We had that meeting on February 17th to discuss their proposal. It's a really exciting proposal. We're in the early stages of back and forth, meetings with the developer. And it's all in the process to clarify and just gather enough information that we can take back to council and present it to council and then present it to the public. So we're hoping, there's meetings coming up with them, and we're hoping to have enough information to bring back to our next public meeting on the 15th of March, I think. And we'll have other items to present then as we go through the agenda for the committee meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any questions, comments on that? All right, if not, we will move on to public safety, and we have Councillor Bruce King and Councillor Buckle.
Mr. Mayor, can I just interrupt you for a minute?
Sure.
As I indicated earlier, I got to leave the meeting there now to attend my work for night shift, so I have to leave there now.
Okay. Carry on, sir.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Take care. So, Councillor Bruce King, where were you to?
I am right here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. You must have been on mute.
My wife puts me on mute all the time. I'm just going to cover both topics that we discussed since our last meeting. That will be the Public Safety Committee meeting, and also I'll cover a few points with regards to the meeting that we had with the RCMP. So good evening, Mr. Mayor, fellow councillors and staff, and of course, the hundreds of residents that are listening at home. On February 4th, we had our public safety meeting, and those in attendance were myself, Councillor Buckle, the mayor, the fire chief, and our director of public works, Mr. Stacy. So I'm just going to go down through some of the key points. The first one being, just as I mentioned, the fire department received a donation from Atlantic Star Foundation for funding for a self-contained breathing apparatus station. And so I just want to say a big thank you to that company. And we've already discussed it, maybe sending it out a letter of appreciation from the town of Holyrood as well. So that filling station has been ordered, and we're looking at hopefully getting that within the next 6 weeks or so. Our next one is an update on training. Now that the levels have started to change, the training for the fire department is going to start to increase. And from the fire chief's report, the numbers of recruits and people attending training has skyrocketed. And on average, they're getting about 20 or so recruits per training session, which is fantastic. So the fire department, under the leadership of the fire chief, is in pretty good hands. And of course, so are the residents here of Holyrood. With regards to our new vehicle, we're having some issues trying to get a new vehicle. Right now, we're trying to purchase something, but there doesn't seem to be anything out there that we can buy, even if we wanted to buy it. And that's almost the problem right now, from one end of the country to the other. So we're still looking. We have a couple of plans in place to how to pay for the vehicle, and it could be between partnerships, donations, local companies, funding from the government, and funding from the town itself. So we're working on that one, and there'll be more to follow as we get any more updates. We discussed our tabletop exercise, and like Councillor Windsor and Councillor King said, and everybody has in agreement, the weather is changing, right? I can go out now, here you go, the 22nd of February, and I can go out and mow the lawn. That's unheard of. So, you know, we have these gigantic rainstorms now in the middle of February, which was never heard of before. So we're looking at a tabletop exercise for some kind of a disaster here in the Holyrood area. And once the alert levels have changed, probably which will be after March 14th, we're going to be able to sit down with the committee, with the Public Safety Committee and the Fire Chief, and put together a tabletop exercise that we're looking at doing probably in the early spring, with another major exercise probably later on maybe in May or June. So we're looking forward to doing that. The hiring, I just want to say that we have hired a fourth firefighter, Mr. Greg Lawler. So he's going to be part of our 4-person full-time team during the day. And he comes with a wealth of experience. And so he will be definitely a very valuable asset, both to the fire chief and his team, and also for the residents of Holyrood as well. So welcome aboard, Mr. Lawler. The incidents over the past little while have increased, but for example, and so has the number of people from the fire hall that have been able to respond. For example, there was a vehicle fire a fire near a home not too long ago, and we were able to dispatch 2 full pumper crews with 10 members on the scene. So that's a pretty good turnout for a volunteer fire department. So congratulations to the fire department for their outstanding work as it stands today. Storm preparations, we already discussed storm preparations, and the infrastructure and public works team seem to have everything in order. And with regards to bigger culverts, ditches, and all these things. But we also discussed as well, the residents' responsibility as well of cleaning out the leaves and stuff in the ditches next to your house. And if we ever do get any snow, clearing out around the fire hydrant, because the difference it takes in a couple of minutes, and as the mayor who spent 28 years with the fire service, every minute when you get to a scene it counts towards probably the difference between a building being destroyed or somebody losing their life. So if the fire department gets there and they have to spend minutes trying to find the fire hydrant or digging it out, that takes minutes away from doing other work as well. So just take a few minutes, clean out the ditches, look at stuff around your property, and the same way with the fire hydrants. If it snows, clean them around there. It might be a valuable asset to the people, to you or your neighbors. The last one I want to talk to with regards to that is I want to say a big thank you to our MHA and our Director of Public Works, Mr. Stacy. There was potholes along here at Route 60. I know for a fact because I called the MHA and I called Mr. Stacy or emailed him, and within the space of 2 days, all those potholes were filled in. So I want to thank the MHA and I want to thank Mr. Stacy, because even though probably two of them sent the same emails to the Department of Highways, it doesn't matter. It got done. So thank you very much for your efforts. And I just say, if people still see potholes out there, report them, and it doesn't take very long for them to get filled back in. We did have, as the mayor has stated, we did have a meeting with the RCMP on February 10th. It was a very productive meeting, I can honestly say. And we did discuss speed. We did, especially on Route 60, but one of the other places that speeding is a major problem here in Holyrood is the Salmon line. People get off the TCH to head down this way, and they don't distinguish between the TCH, where the TCH ends, and where the Salmon line begins. So there's a very large reduction in speed, but people don't seem to realize that. So the RCMP are out there. They're making a conscious effort to catch these people, both on the Salmon line and on Route 60, especially during peak travel times, and on Route 60 it would be in the morning when kids are out getting ready to go to school, and probably on the Salmon line in the evenings when people are coming back from work. And one of the biggest causes of fatalities and collisions in this province is distracted drivers and speeding. So people need to slow down. Like you said, you're not going to get there any faster. And, it's better for you to arrive alive than not arrive at all. And you do not want to be responsible for seriously injuring or killing somebody on the highway because you were 5 minutes late for work. We also discussed break-in enters and vandalism. There was a series of vehicle break-ins on Duff Strait and up in the area of Mountain View. And those have been reported to the RCMP. And so if you have something, if you see something, like I said, say something. And if there's a problem, report it to the RCMP. There was a question came up with regards to RCMP patrols in the town 24/7. And the RCMP do have people on the streets and on the highways 24 hours a day. And, where they are sometimes, it depends on the instance. So you could call the RCMP here in Holyrood at 3 o'clock in the morning, and within 10 minutes, there could be an RCMP officer on your doorstep. You could call them again, and it could take 15 to 20 minutes or longer, depending on where the RCMP officers are at that particular time. They have a very large area to patrol, and so it's going to take them a little bit longer to get to where they're supposed to go. We already covered the ATV and the UTV program, and the RCMP is committed to making sure that the trailway and the highways here are safe. We also discussed neighborhood watch program, and they've done neighborhood watch program before, and it's very successful. So we are encouraged here to residents, if you want to organize a neighborhood watch program, just let us know, and we will make contact with the RCMP and show you the proper way of setting it up and setting it up for success. And the last one is we're looking at the possibility of live streaming a RCMP presentation to the residents of Holyrood and using council chambers to do it. The same as what we're doing right now in the meeting. The RCMP would set up in council chambers, and like I said, they would do the presentation, and people could watch it at the same time it's being delivered, or they could watch it at their convenience. I was going to turn it over to Councillor Buckle, but he's gone to work, so that's all I have. If anybody has any questions, please let me know. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Lots there to report. Any questions or comments? For those listening online, you may have just experienced some static, poor reception there, and I think it's the location of Mr. King's home.
Yes, actually, we have had problems here with internet, and for the longest time, we've talked to the internet provider, and it's like a lot of other places in Holyrood. There's really not much they seem to be able to do for it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, if there's no other questions or comments on that, thank you, by the way, Councillor King. And now we will move on to Corporate Services and Administration. So we have Councillor Crowley or Councillor Bruce King.
Councillor King, I think I'll get started. And if there's anything else you want to add, you can come in after. How's that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Sounds great. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Council staff, and residents. Corporate Services and Administration met on February 14th. So we were celebrating Valentine's Day together virtually through Zoom call. And in attendance, it was CEO Gary Corbett, myself, Councillor King, Mayor Gooby, and Marie Searle, Director of Finance. We don't need to go into all the different pieces that corporate services is. It's kind of par for the course, dealing with accounts, admin, things like that. A lot of it's private information due to privacy concerns for the residents. But some of the things we are discussing and working on is the council operating policy and procedure document. It is quite outdated. There has been additions and updates and stuff along the way, but we decided that every single meeting we will set aside the first 30 minutes to delegate a part of that operating policy and procedure document and start working through it piece by piece. And once we have a completed document, we will send it to council. Same thing with the strategic plan, continuously being worked on. All committees are working on their piece, and hopefully we'll have a strategic plan coming up shortly, or some version of it that we can present soon to council. We did discuss home-based businesses again, and we know that it's a common thread between a number of councils that, some people register, some people don't. It's known, and there's not a whole lot except to encourage residents that you get a whole number of benefits if you do register with the town. So there are so many benefits you can get. We mentioned this at the last meeting, so just want to reiterate it. We talked about HMPC, but that will be tabled for another time. We talked about our Procurement Act. That is something else that's going to go to the Council of the Whole, because we're going to very soon have a discussion on what our thresholds will be for tendering and RFPs. And that's really important to come up with based on all committees. So that's something the Council Whole will discuss, and we'll bring it back to public when we're prepared. And otherwise, we just had a review of financials, and there are several large invoices there to be paid for legal and contracting work. So I'll let Councillor King, if he has anything else to add. Otherwise, we'll move on to the our accounts and our motions.
No, I'm fine there, Laura. That's good.
Okay, fantastic. So be it resolved that the accounts tabled in the amount of $216,200.78. This will be check numbers D0000002374 to dash D0000002389 and checks 042939 to 042990 to be approved for payment. So moved.
Okay, moved by Councillor Crawley. Could I have a seconder, please?
Deputy Mayor.
Seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion is carried.
Okay, and our bank book balance as of was 2 days ago is $824.63. Still in the black.
There you go.
That's all I have as an update for the corporate services and administration. Mayor Gooby.
Okay, thank you so much, Councillor Crawley. Any other questions or comments on corporate services? Okay, if not, we will move on to the Communications Committee.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Woodford and Councillor Sadie King, I can do a brief update, and if you have anything to add, if you want to pop in after, is that okay?
Sure. Perfect.
Okay. It was a fantastic communications committee meeting. We met on February 8th at 4:30, and it was a Zoom meeting. Deputy Mayor Woodford was there, myself, Councillor Sadie King, Steve Martin, Krista Turnbull, and Marjorie Gibbons. It was unbelievable how well in sync we were for where we wanted to go with our communications. So staff and councillors seemed to be perfectly aligned. We said we would come up with 5 top priorities that we wanted to concentrate on, and they may have been in different order, but we basically agreed that our internal communication would be worked on, and we're going to pick it apart policy by policy. So every meeting we're going to meet and take one piece of it. So we're going to take an internal section of staff to council and work on that. Because it's obviously very important to keep the lines of communication and free flowing open between staff and council, and also between staff and staff. So there are policies in place, we found out, and there's lots of good documentation there, but sometimes it's not narrowed down as finely as we would like. So that's the idea that we're going to work on there. And our other priority was obviously external communication. So we discussed how we can work through our external, and we discussed creating a database of residents with their preferred method of communication and making sure that we are able to reach all our residents, and whether the priorities, if it was an emergency broadcast, then how would that go out versus an update of a recreation event versus, storm problems or public works and services. So we're going to pick apart those piece by piece and spend time on that. The other thing that we spoke to was the new website. And we want to make sure that this website is a service-based website. So you don't just go there for information. You can actually use the website to make your payments, make requests, contact, and be involved with the Town of Holyrood. So that would be coming up very shortly to council. There are some changes that had to be made to the website. So we took feedback from our last communication minutes. Steve and Krista are interacting with Robotic Interactive. And once the template's ready, again, it's going to come to our committee. And if we pass everything and everything looks good, we'll bring it to council. So that's an update on my side of communication. Deputy Mayor Woodford or Councillor King?
I don't have anything else to add, Laura. I have to say, though, it was a really good meeting. A lot of ideas, but as you said, we were all on the same page. It was, as we came into this committee, there were existing, terms of reference and things for the committee, but really we have to determine a starting point. And communications is a rather large piece of of what we need to do on council. And, you know, if we can take it, as you said, piece by piece and work on it piece by piece, we will get through it. It's going to take us a while to get through it, but we will get through it. But it seems that everybody is on the same page when it comes to what our most important pieces that we're going to work on within the next several months will be. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes up the website. As you said, it's going to be a service-based website. I think the public will be, so much in tune with this new website, and the information, the access to information will be readily available for anyone who chooses to use it. But thank you. It was a really good report, Laura.
Thank you. Councillor Sadie King, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Yeah, so we're really excited moving forward.
Okay, that's great. And it's quite obvious there. You have a lot on your plate there with communications. And obviously, as you just indicated, certainly off to a great start. You're focused and you know exactly where you're going with this committee, and wish you well. Excellent news. Good. Okay, with that said, we will now move on to new business. So I'll do the go around, and we will start with Deputy Mayor Woodford.
The only thing that I wanted to just to bring up tonight is the Northeast Avalon Joint Council meeting that I attended last week, or 2 weeks ago. It was 2 weeks ago. Councillor Crawley and I are on that group. I'm just waiting on minutes. The minutes of that meeting haven't been released yet. So hopefully we'll have something to report at our next public meeting. I really don't want to get into it right now because I don't have everything on hand here that we discussed, but it was a good meeting. I mean, things, were discussed with regards to the RCMP are there. They give an update. We did have representation from government there. We also talked about Eastern Regional Safety Board. They're going to be at the next meeting for questions that arose during this meeting. And of course, we touched on regionalization as well. But hopefully for the next meeting, we'll have the minutes and we'll be able to discuss it a little bit further.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And now we'll move on to Councillor Bruce King.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a one point just to reiterate. I know it was already discussed, and that has to do with Heritage Week, which is Heritage Week is February 21st to the 27th. And we already discussed the fact that you signed the proclamation to recognize National Heritage Week down at the museum on Monday the 21st. The proclamation was signed at the Heritage Museum. Every year, the National Trust of Canada encourages all Canadians to celebrate their museums, their national historic sites, and cultural centers across the country. And Heritage Newfoundland and Labrador also this year encouraged all municipalities across the province to highlight local heritage and social media platforms. And we've done that. And for this year, when we had it at the museum, we invited Mr. Dominic and Mary Corbett. And from all accounts, they were quite witty, which is probably a very good thing. They were very proud to be asked to be part of the ceremony. And I know Karen Whitehorn, the vice president, introduced the mayor, and Karen and Jeanette, the treasurer, also presented Mr. and Mrs. Corbett with a glass with the harbor scene that's designed by Kellyanne Bashara. She's one of our local artists, and she does fantastic work. Mr. Corbett, our CAO, and Councillor Sadie King were also present for the signing of the proclamation, and everybody seemed to have a great time. Just for everybody's interest, the article and some of the pictures should be in this week's Shoreliner. And the other thing I want to mention just before I forget it, Mr. and Mrs. Corbett's 70th wedding anniversary is tomorrow, the 23rd. And I just want to say congratulations. And I also want to make sure that it's in the minutes that on my my wife and I's 70th wedding anniversary, that we would be invited to the museum for Heritage Day. But then I realized after I checked it out, I'll be 115, so I probably won't be able to make it. And the last part I just want to say a big shout out to Linda and Stuart and Karen and Jeanette, who do fantastic work down at the museum. They make sure that everything is absolutely spotless down there. They preserve all of the history of Holyrood, not just for Heritage Week, but they look after it for 365 days a year. And when the time comes, when the pandemic is finally over and people can actually move around like we used to do during normal times, I would encourage everybody, not only the residents of Holyrood, but anybody who happens to drive through Holyrood, stop in, have a look around. They have some fantastic exhibits down there, and it's worth your while to go in and have a look, have a chat. There always seems to be cookies around, and the kettle seems to be always on. So if you get the opportunity, drop in and say hi. And that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. And yes, indeed, that is a beautiful facility. And when you walk in through those doors, everything that you look at, there's something there that would bring back a memory. And they touch on everything. There's so many theme rooms. It's just a fantastic place, and it really brings you back in time. So I agree. For those, when the masks can come off and COVID is behind us, I really encourage residents and visitors alike to take a little while, take an hour or two, and drop by the museum, because there's so much there to see and appreciate. So yes, no doubt, the Heritage Group, are doing a fabulous job in protecting and preserving the history of Holyrood. So thank you very much for that, sir. And now, Councillor Crowley, you're up.
I just want to say congratulations to the Blood Collection Services new organization that opened up, the new business that opened up. They seem to be doing really well. The regionalization report, I'm piecing my way through it, so I'm sure we're going to have a great discussion on that upcoming too, especially when we get back in chambers. I think it'd be a good thing to discuss. But the biggest thing I wanted to bring up was that February is Kindness Month. And tomorrow, most schools will be celebrating whatever you want to call it, Anti-Bullying Day, Pink Shirt Day, Kindness Day. People take a different take on it. But it's all about celebrating tolerance and being inclusive and celebrating diversity. So it's really important. I want to make sure that the message gets out there that we don't need to just celebrate this in schools. We can celebrate it in businesses. We can celebrate it in council. We can celebrate it everywhere. So I love the quote, in a world where you can be anything, be kind. Thank you.
Well said. Thank you very much. You did mention regionalization, and I will just add that we will have a visit tomorrow at the fire station at their request, the Minister of Municipal and Provincial Affairs, and we're going to have a little discussion on regionalization, and of course, protective services is a big component of that. So I did receive a phone call yesterday from the minister's office, and the minister looks forward in visiting our town and visiting the fire station tomorrow. So certainly look forward to a good meeting with her. Okay, Councillor Sadie King, you're up.
No, I'm not up. I'm good this evening, Gary. I got nothing.
You're good? Okay. And Councillor Windsor?
Nothing further from me, Mr. Mayor. And Councillor Crowley, thank you for the reminder. I will make sure to wear a pink shirt tomorrow.
Here, there you go. Okay, and I'll just wrap it up here, and I'll reiterate a comment there that Councillor King just brought up there. On behalf of council, I'd like to wish Mr. Dominic Corbett and Mrs. Corbett a happy 70th anniversary, which they will be celebrating tomorrow. That is quite a milestone, 70 years, and we certainly want to wish them continued health and happiness in the years ahead. So that is the agenda, and the date of the next meeting is March 15th at 5:30. So could I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Deputy Mayor.
Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by
Councillor King.
Councillor King, all those in favor?
I
Those against, motion is carried. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.